Hi everyone, it's Natalie here. I wanted to do a VR to Nina from Shuffle Tarot, my lovely friend Nina, who did her top 10 reading decks hashtag. Um, we all did, or I have it and I'm trying to figure out how to get it uploaded because I did a dum-dum. I was trying something new. When you try something new, it holds up the works. But anyway, it'll get out there eventually. I have my only 10 decks hashtag that I'm trying to figure out how to edit and splice together. But I really appreciated that Nina threw out a top 10 reading decks for the year because it changes all the time. What we want to read with and how we prefer to read and so forth is always evolving and changing and shifting, and I love that. So that said, these are the decks pretty much in no particular order, although there is one deck that I read with more than any of the rest of these, and I will talk about that. These are the top 10, everybody. These are the top 10. So I'm going to start with an oldie but goodie, the Numinous Tarot. So again, some of you will know or be familiar with my wrap that I have for this one that I always use. Some of you will have no idea what I'm talking about. I made this wrap specifically for this deck. This is just by far and away one of my favorite ever decks. I love it so much. It represents so much to me about the community that I work and read, work with, read for, talk to on a daily basis, etc. It's like being with all of my art friends, my theater friends that I've known throughout my life on several continents. It is the young people that I used to teach in the university. It is the community that I serve through the chiropractic office that I have. It's very, very heavily influenced by the LGBTQ plus community. And when it comes down to like, who do I feel most at home with? It seems to me, Tom and I were talking about this the other night, the vast majority of our friends, and we never really considered this, are in some way a part of this community. And it just was not, it's not, of course we're aware of that, but when you're friends with people for so long, it's not the defining feature of your friendship with them. It's just, it becomes like a fact about their lives. Suffice it to say, it is among the communities I feel most at home and comfortable, and always have, because I've always been accepted. I've always been appreciated, loved, supported. And it's one of the most diverse communities you can possibly imagine. I also love that there's a whole suit of tomes in this deck. So yeah, this one was out for most of May and June and July. And I think I shifted when I got to August. It was like, okay, it's time to shift decks. But this is one I pull out every single year. I often will just pull it throughout the year. It's one that has to be available where I can find it easily because it will inevitably be used. Again, this would be the community that I serve right now, right? So, in part, yeah. There's a wonderful theater reference. It's just, I love it. There's nothing about it I don't love. 2021. We'll miss you in our own way. Yeah. It's not really a laughing matter, but sometimes you have to laugh because it's all you can do. That's really how I feel about it. So, okay. Moving on. For those of you who caught that, thank you. And a lot of you won't have caught that, or it won't be something you thought much about, and that's okay too. So, okay, so this next tarot deck was a Kickstarter. I can't even remember at this point when that Kickstarter came in. If it was at the end of last year or the beginning of this year, it's all kind of, you know, time has gone wibbly wobbly for me in so many ways. But the Gentle Tarot, which I keep in its box because it's perfect. I mean, I just have no complaints about it. I love this for so many reasons. It holds up so beautifully. It's got an almost rose petal kind of finish, which I actually really like. I know that's not the popular thing right now, but I do really like it. Somehow, did I separate these recently? I must have put these in order. I did. Oh my goodness, I put it back in order again. When did I do that? How interesting. I must have found a good reason to put this one back in order again. I have to sniff it while we're here. Oh, you sniff so good, darling. This one, I don't even know where to begin. I have a querent, a client that I read for regularly, for whom the magician is really how she identifies. And when I brought this deck out, she was so excited that, first of all, that it had shells on it, because for her, shells are tremendous. And then similarly, that it was a female embodied person for the magician. Personally, the owl is the high priestess, especially a great horned owl for me is wonderful. It's my birth card. Yeah, it's so moving and so simple and easy to read with. The guidebook is gentle. It's beautiful. She's specific enough about her choices and where they emerged from that it makes sense. You know, it is just a complete, you know, delight to read with. It's also exciting to me to have a reading deck like this that's made by an indigenous person in the U.S. and on North America, basically, or Turtle Island. It's just so moving. It gives very specific, accurate readings with great, literally with, just as it says it promises, with great gentleness, with specificity, with ease. It's a wonderful, wonderful deck. And I've not actually read for myself with it, which is weird. I normally would read with a deck like this for myself first before working, you know, using it with a client. But the reason it started as a client-centered deck was because this one particular client, it was just screaming at me from across the room. And I thought, okay, I've only ever done a walkthrough with it, but clearly it wants to read for her. I didn't know the deck. It's fortunate that the client is someone who appreciates experiments, and that's exactly what we did. I feel like I really want to shuffle it because it's in order and it's going to have to be shuffled anyway. Look at that. It shuffles beautifully. You know, it is a little bit sticky. I feel like that got a little easier when I was using it before, but I don't know if, I think it did. I feel like it did. Or it was at least easy enough that it wasn't a problem. The edging, you know, the quality, the edging is all of it. There's really nothing not to love about this deck. Truly. So, yeah, I have enjoyed working with it tremendously. And anytime I work with, you know, I stopped at one point and went ahead and read the book after that reading because I thought, my God, I've got to at least know, you know, I need to at least know the deck, you know, and have a sense of what what Mari's intention was with it. And I was, of course, not disappointed by that either, you know, by reading the book. It's wonderful. So there we are, number 2. Number 3, this one was already mentioned in another video. I did my top 5 decks of the year for my depth year. And, you know, amazingly, I never got back to wrapping it back up properly, did I? Because I knew it would have to come back out. So I won't spend a lot of time with this one, but it's the Buddha Tarot. exciting. I got it in 2020. This is the out-of-print version, original from Llewellyn. I actually love the cardstock. It's, you know, I love this deck. It's exciting to me to mix the two systems, you know, from the Tibetan and the tarot. I'm excited. It's one of Robert and Place's decks. I love his work. It's been huge. This has been a big part of my practice this year, and I've really loved it. And I'm hoping in the new year to start a series of videos, because I know at some point Schiffer will have that deck available. And I feel like people maybe have not, you know, worked with this one as much because it's confusing. And I want to just demystify some of that stuff and explain it so that it's a little more accessible. Okay, so that's that. Number 4. Okay, this one has really turned me into a complete fan of this creator's work. It's the Guardian of the Night Tarot by MJ Cullinane. And I cannot tell you how much I love this deck. Again, it's a beautiful, clear deck that's very easy to read. I think mostly I picked it up and began reading for others with it right away. So it hasn't actually been like a personal use deck. My clients have loved it. Not only that, my parents' dog loves it, which I know is weird sounding, but, and I wish we'd gotten it on video. Maybe I'll bring this with me at Christmas and we'll see if we can get her to sit down again and do what she does. She's a Shih Tzu. She sat up on her hind legs. I mean, geez, that's beautiful. The rat is the Hierophant. She loved it. She sits up and wants to be spoken to about each card and looks at it with great curiosity. It's so adorable. But alas, she's not the target audience, of course. But it's, yeah, I mean, it's just so clear. I think it's clever. I never struggle to understand what the meanings are behind, you know, it's got an edge to it because, of course, the wilderness, or the space between, the space with which, I guess, we negotiate or navigate the urban, you know, the human urban landscape and nature, is one that's fraught with difficulty. And she doesn't shy away from any of that. It holds all of that within it. I also have to say, since I just finished a Hangman year. You probably heard me say that a dozen times by now. Ironic, given that it's number 12. But Henry is especially adept at spotting possums in trees. So while I know theoretically that possums occupy trees and hang from them upside down like this, I'd never seen it until I got Henry. And he loves spotting possums. And he barks and barks and barks, and they just sit there and stare at us, and they're utterly adorable. I really love possums, actually. So this has been sort of my Hanged Man, one of 2 this year that just lives inside my mind regularly. And when I see a possum, I feel supported and loved, and I feel great empathy. So from them, whether it's intended and real or not, it's there. Yeah. And the hawk. Oh, it just, I love it. I love it. I love her style. It makes me really want to work with all of her decks. I also have the Urban Crow Oracle, which has been a great companion to this deck, as well as many others that are not MJ's. But yeah, I hope to eventually get my hands on all of her decks because I really resonate deeply with her work. I like her aesthetic. I like the way she interprets. Oh, so there we go. So that is the Guardian of the Night Tarot by MJ Cullinane. And this deck is one that was also part of my top 5, so I won't spend a huge amount of time with it. because I've already done that in that video. But here is the Bonestone and Earthflesh Tarot by, you know, our very own Avalon Cameron and Anna Tourian. I absolutely love and adore this deck. It is, I've read both for myself, is where I started with it. Intended to be only a Natalie deck, and quickly became a read for everybody deck. That Nine of Cups has been there for me all year this year in interesting ways. Yeah, really had some profound, deep readings with this deck throughout the year this year. Oh, the Kuan Yin. Yeah, I love everything about it, and especially the mixing of different aspects of different cultures all together in one deck. It really, it feels right. It definitely resonates. And it's the inclusivity therein is really deeply appreciated. Yeah, so the Bonestone and Earthflesh Tarot. Okay, and then the next deck, for me, this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is deck number 6, reading deck 10 of 6, or 6 of 10, right? Is the Tarot of the Crone by Ellen Lorenzi Prince. This this is one that I crash learned. I edged the deck in this nice light purple to match. I crash learned this deck to use it with a client and who requested it, and I never regretted it 1 ounce. I have loved this deck. I've used it not nearly enough. I feel not nearly enough. It's one that I really like to dig more deeply into in the new year, because, you know, while the guidebook is exquisite and really lays everything out how does this always happen? It's having cats, like, this is just, oh, cats in my space, boys. Yeah, nothing is pristine when pets are involved. Yeah, the way that she works with colors, the way that she the way she offers poetry and explanation is absolutely glorious, and I adore it. I have loved working with this deck. The readings are deep and they're profound. The symbolism is different than what I'm accustomed to, and yet I really love I love it. I love the simplicity. I've come to love her artwork deeply. That just, yeah. I mean, yeah. It's got such a wonderful perspective. I know that I think that this was a limited edition run. I will say I was a little disappointed with the quality of the cardstock and the I don't know, it wasn't quite what I would have expected from Arnell or Ellen Lorenzi Prince, and I kind of don't care, because I would rather have it than not have it, and work with it than not work with it. I wish that this one were reprinted and made more accessible to people. I think it would be, I don't know. I love smaller decks. Or independent decks that have like limited runs and stuff, but I also feel like, come on, like, is there not a way to make it more available, because more people would really like to work with it? But you know, that's life, isn't it? I guess that's life. I was always hoping that maybe I'd find a version of this one that was available, like that somebody wanted to rehome, and I tried looking for a couple of years and nobody rehomes it because it's so personal. It's so personal and so beautiful. So Yeah, I absolutely love this. That is the Tarot of the Crone. So deck number 7 is one that, again, I spoke about in my top 5 as one of my top reading decks of the year, or top 5 decks of my depth year, and it is the Shadowlands Tarot by Monica Bodirsky. So I won't talk too much in detail about this one, but suffice it to say, it just touches me on pretty much every level. I would say if I had to pick one reading deck for the year that I used the most, both for myself or for a querent, it's probably this one. You know, this just touches it. I can take any messages it wants to give me, you know, no matter how difficult, no matter how uncomfortable, I can always take it. It's always possible to take it. It never scares me. It never leaves me feeling like I can't cope with the information given by a difficult reading. Ooh, we got some neighborhood dogs that always bark when they pass our house, even though Henry's not outside. I don't know why. Yeah, it, you know, it reminds me of myself and my cat at moments. This another hanged man that's been with me all year. All year. Yeah, it's just it's smart, it's witty, it's intelligent. It reminds me of Edward Gorey, and it also really demonstrates the amount of knowledge and experience that Monica really has with the tarot. So definitely my number 1 deck of the year if I were going to choose a reading deck, simply because it's been used the most. And it's one I reach for the most. That said, I do enjoy reading with Oracle decks. I am not going to include Kipper, Lenormand, Mo, or what's the other, Sibylla with this. But I did want to throw out 3 decks that I read with this year, which were Oracle decks that became my top reading decks for one reason or another. I'm going to start with the newest first, and then we'll go back to my 2 favorites, which I'm so excited. I'm going to start by saying the first deck, Oracle deck I'm mentioning here, which is actually number 8 in the whole list, is the Oracle of Black Enchantment by Patrick Valenza. What I love about this deck initially was just the aesthetic. Okay, the aesthetic of it, of the woodcuts and kind of going in and out of that particular time period where, you know, this artwork would have been most used. I think the style of this type of woodcut. What I've loved about it is, well, so many things. I love that it's dark. That image is marvelous. I love that it's gruesome and creepy and weird and uncomfortable, and the bodies are kind of disfigured and strange, and yet like that one's beautiful. You know, I like the horizontal, you know, landscape features about it. So that's where I was starting from. And I spent probably the better part of at least 2 years trying to figure out, like, how do I read with this? I just don't know. I mean, I appreciate the guidebook and everything. I read it. I downloaded it. It's good. I just couldn't quite figure out how to apply this one. Then I had an epiphany, oddly enough, during late September, I think, or early October, about exactly how it wants to be read. And it is a situational deck. When people now come to me with situational readings and say, I really want to understand what the dynamic is of this situation with these people and this job, or you know, whatever it may be, this has become the deck that I go to. The use of metaphor is tremendous. It is, again, it's dark, it's not comfortable, but I don't really need a guidebook. Once I figured out how to apply it, the guidebook was really a moot point. It was just immediate, really. It just became very, very immediate. And I could describe what I was seeing, and the readings that I've been able to give with this have been surprising even to me. You know, when clients will write me back, like if I do an audio reading on Etsy with photos and the audio file, people come back and they are really, it apparently really hits the mark. This gave way to being able to figure out how to work with the Secret Pocket Oracle as well. Again, this one I could not unlock, and that's weird for me because I can usually unlock almost anything. But I really honestly struggled with this because it uses a lot of the same symbols as Lenormand. It's not Lenormand. You know, it should be kind of playful and fun and easy with the symbols. I love the art style. I'm not crazy about the whole Mildred Payne storyline. You know, it's kind of gross. I thought it was fun and original initially, and over time it's started to make me kind of sick to my stomach, in truth. And yet I still appreciate the decks. I still like the artwork. I enjoy working with them. This one I could not get I couldn't get a hook in. You know what I mean? I tried deck interviews. I tried almost everything. And then suddenly, I combined it with this one just to get clarification, for readings with this deck. And it made itself perfectly well known, exactly how it wants to work. These two really want to work together. So that has been a delightful discovery. And the two of them work beautifully. And this one didn't make my list because I didn't read with it quite as much as a tarot deck this year as I would have expected. But with, you know, the Oracle of, what do we call this? This is an Oracle. This is the Triomphe de la Luna Paradoxical. There we go. Yeah. And I love the way that the Paradoxical links that blue, you know, from the Seance edition through with this kind of old world woodcut feel, you know, of that deck. But the three of them together really do offer some beautiful readings. But I tend to make this one the center of that reading. This one is an acolyte, and this one is a support, if that makes sense. You know, this one offers the deeper insights. Yeah. So, and I love this one anyway. I mean, this is, I mean, it's out because I keep reading with it. Because if I'm going to read directionally with a Marseille deck, that's the one I like. So, yeah. So these guys are number, together, pretty much, are number 8. Okay, and then number 9. Number 9. Numbers 9 and 10 are two decks that I never appear at a live in-person tarot reading without. So number 9 is the Sovereign Oracle by Theresa Pridemore. I originally got this one thinking I would just be using it with my Melissa Lucia decks, which don't always have a guidebook, right? Or something to go with, or words or keywords or anything. And this, drawing a keyword from this to go with a deck like that is extraordinary. What I have also found is that this deck is extraordinary just on its own. If you want to do a tarot reading, or a card reading and just have, words to be with, like recreate, take a break. It will be there when you return. Try a fresh start. The results might surprise you. Genius requires action and rest to be made manifest, right? It's a beautifully done deck. I mean, it's colorful, it's pretty. I'm shocked sometimes at how well, oh, look at that, at how well the images or the colors combine with the word with the rest of the cards. I just love it. It's sometimes people are really verbal. They need to have things spelled out. And where I have querents that really need that, this deck does it. Some people really don't. But occasionally, and I have a few that, clients who really need that things spelled out. This deck will help tie together a reading for them and make it more accessible to them. They can suddenly pull all of it together and they know how to use the whole reading. So this tiny little deck is an incredible powerhouse. It comes with a cute little card that just explains a few things, but it also has a business spread, right? And it has a creative project spread, and they're both really amazing. Ta-da! So yes, this is I won't go for a reading without it. I just won't, because you just never know when it will be the thing that solidifies a reading and makes it empowering for that particular client. And finally, number 10, and this, I think, this deck, along with the Sovereign Oracle, is one that I do not go to a reading without. And that is the Fine Lines 44 Meditation Cards for Intentional Living by Julianne Victoria. And you can see the tuck box is getting really worn out. I think that's a title card. It's got several title cards or blanks in here. Similar to the Sovereign Oracle, sometimes focusing a reading requires, for highly intelligent, intellectual people, really requires, it requires language and not just image. And it needs to be specific, it needs to be succinct, and it needs to tell them exactly what that fine line is in a reading. Am I coming to this particular situation because I want to be kind, and because I have a natural level of altruism, or is it that ultimately what I'd really like to have is recognition or some kind of reward for my actions? And sometimes that, often combined with this, perhaps I should have done these two as a pair as well. That would have let me have one more deck. Stick to the script, kids. Stick to the script. All right. But, this frequently is exactly what is needed to make things click for a particular client or for myself. I would say I'm amazed and thrilled by how well the cards themselves and the cardstock holds up. I think these came from GameCrafter, if I recall correctly. I think Julianne is a remarkable and very like underappreciated or even underrated creator of decks, because they are really insightful. And I absolutely love this deck. Being present versus being a bystander. I mean, that's quite a fine line there. But if what you're wanting to do is figure out inside of a reading, inside of a particular issue, where the focus needs to be, this one will give it to you every single time. You know, I'm seeking love. I'm looking for love. I can't stand it. I really want to be with this person, blah, blah, blah. Okay, are you choosing this person because you really are in love with them? Or, you know, does it come down to solitude versus loneliness? That can sometimes define or it can highly flavor or define a reading, and tell you literally where the line is in terms of how to move forward. So yes, this one is one that I just never will go to a reading without. So if it is an in-person reading, this deck accompanies me every single time. Every single time. All right, so those are my top 10 working decks. I'm curious to see what everyone else's are, and I'm so grateful once again to Nina from Shuffle Tarot. Nina, thank you so much for your decision to, you know, bring this into being. It's been a lot of fun, and I was thinking of doing something similar myself, and I'm glad you introduced it. All right, friends, these are some of the decks here where they're not wrapped up yet. I'm just making fuss right now. All right, I will see you all again in the next one. Take care. Bye.